Cool. Okay, thank you. Good morning to everyone, and really must say that it's been such a great experience. Um, I want to thank the the chair B20 India, Mr. Chandrasekharan, for asking me to lead this. It's been a great learning, and working with my co-chairs and global experts in this field has really opened my vision and also insights into this. So I hope that in the next couple of minutes I can contribute and tell you what we actually did. We opened the innings really strong in November when India took over. We have 179 members on, from G20 country, the 20 G20 countries and 7 other countries. So I think it very, very diverse people in this. Their active contribution and inputs created multiple drafts, and the policy paper we ensured was both robust and had sharp recommendations. One thing I can tell you, Chandra and Mr. Kant, this is probably the shortest document you would have got. We kept it under 60 pages, and we said, let's make this into an interaction that would actually, that would help the ministers, you know, uh, be able to conclude a policy on this. So we just took 3 frameworks, and I want to dive straight in. So we did the future of work, skilling, and mobility. We used these 3 sharp pillars, of course, under the RAISE framework, and then said, what could we do? And we have from there just 7 recommendations. So what is this thing about the first pillar, which is the future of work? So the nature of work, as all of you know, has really changed, not just post-pandemic, but actually whatever we've been experiencing, whether it's generative AI or technology and conflict and population rise. So the nature of workplaces also has drastically changed. And I do not want to get into it because all of you as business leaders have been dealing with this and understanding and rapidly shifting. And the third is the nature of the workforce is experiencing dynamic changes also in terms of concentration. So there's a need now to recognize and enable diverse forms of work, including open-ended gig workers, fixed-term, agency, part-time, and the self-employed work, as well as a means, how do you organize them? And the platform workers, they're flexible work markets now. And all these are crucial for all our businesses to enable them to respond to the changing markets and for future disruptions. So there's a whole context of what we needed to do under this pillar. The second pillar I want to move on to is really about skilling. And if you see, according to the World Economic Forum, 50% of employees worldwide will need reskilling just by 2025. And even in the longevity of the workforce today, as many countries, are experiencing, it's not just about the first skill you learn, but it's probably in your life cycle the many skills that you will continue to learn and upskill and reskill. And this is something that needs to be recognized and codified. And this understanding of both business enterprise as well as the workforce for the emerging skill needs a thorough reskilling and upskilling a framework of how we define it and how can we make it much more robust to increase productivity. By emphasizing the significance of skilling, we can proactively respond to the changing demands and really seize the many opportunities. Now, the third pillar is mobility, and I think that this resonates in this world of migration, of conflict, and of climate change. So many of these have forced migration. In India, of course, I think it's part of our life that people move from the villages and they come to cities looking for jobs. But now what we realize is that in a global world, for instance, just to give you one data point, is that India by 2030 will have the world's in the age group of the most productive, 38% of, that of people will be dependent on living with families. So the rest of them, so this has changed almost by double in the last 20 years. So in the last 20, in the next 7 years, we're going to be producing so many more people for the workforce. And I think that the ability, and this is the same with many countries in the global south, that we can actually offer aging populations an ability, if there's enough mobility in there, how do we open those doors? And what do we need to do to be able to create an environment where not just state to state, but actually how do we move across countries and continents? That would be really I think, the North Star for this particular pillar. And into that, I think it's important that we've given 7 recommendations, Chandra. And the first one is developing a framework for defining jobs of the future. And this is key, because unless you can define it, how can you actually go about implementing it? So this definition is something that we all agreed on. 2 is bridging the formal and informal workforce divide. 3, accelerating workforce skilling to adapt to changing industry demands. 4, especially in the post-COVID scenario, ensuring mental well-being of the workforce. This has emerged as actually a great thrust area. 5, removing policy barriers and leveraging technology to enable cross-border mobility. 6, boosting global workforce mobility to match skill demand and supply. And finally, taking the initial steps to build a universal labor information management system, this ontology. So, when you're creating the center of excellence that you're creating for B20, I think this would really become a very important part of what India would continue to give in the B20 moving forward. So to conclude, I'd like to emphasize again that we were dedicated to give you tangible outcomes. We hope that it's been very effective. And there was a lot. Actually, there was quite a bit of debate, and I want to thank the CII Secretariat that was just outstanding, and of course Accenture that helped pull all these. 179 different members, and each one was pulling in a different way. We put it together, and I think that we made it really practical for everyone out here, because we're all business people. We need something, because we realize that if we can create a productive workforce, I think there's no better beginning to a true Vasudeva Kudumbakam. If everyone is productive, all the rest will actually flow well, that we can give proper jobs and livelihoods. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Kamineni.